I hope all of you be in today's lecture. This is the webinar program with the title of Tracking the Group Challenges, which will be presented by Dr. Kennedy from. The subject of this webinar is very popular in the state, and all people like to know more about the challenges, about the requisites of about value chain, and know more about it to execute it in their business architecture. At first, I would like to say thanks to Dr. Ganey for accepting the invitation of Insurance Research Center to make this lecture for insurance industry of Iran. It could be interesting to have a glance to his proficiency. Dr. Ganey has worked in insurance industry for the past 40 years as a senior global consultant, information technology director, underwriting director, and claims director. He holds degrees in information technology, business management, and insurance. He has worked in 10 countries with approximately 100 insurance companies from all lines of business. He has been Global Insurance and Wealth Management Director for an international consulting company. He has co-founded 2 management consulting organizations totally focused on the insurance and wealth management industry. He is co-author of Panorama 360 Best Practice Insurance and Wealth Management Enterprise Business Architecture Framework and Process Models. At the end of this introduction part, I should inform you that this webinar has 2 parts. In first one, Dr. Ganey will present his lecture, and during his lecture, you all attendees can type your questions in chat box, in chat window below the main window that you can see. And after finishing his lecture, we would ask him to explain more about your question. I don't like to waste the time, and I know that all of you are eagerly waiting to listen to his presentation. Right now, there are 84 people online and are following us. And I think about 200 people are registered to use and learn from Dr. Ganey. Dr. Ganey, we are waiting, and I ask you to start your presentation. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for inviting me. First of all, do you hear me properly?
Yes, of course. I can hear you clearly.
Thank you so much. Thank you. During this 40 to 1 hour presentation, I'll try to be as practical as possible about digital transformation in insurance and what challenges you'll be finding throughout the different programs that you will be undertaking to transform your organizations and also transform the way you interact with clients. So as it was told at the beginning, I'll be talking about the challenges of digital transformation. I'll be talking about the life cycle. What are the different steps that you will be going through, and talking about business capabilities. And I've been using business capabilities since 1997. It was not even a word then. It was not even recognized as business capabilities. But it helps every type of projects, and especially digital transformation, as these projects are so big in size, in investments, and in people. So, and then I'll be talking about how the business capabilities can help it during the digital transformation programs that some of your organizations will be undertaking. Just a little bit about Insurance Frameworks. We're a management consulting organization. We're totally focused on insurance and wealth management. We don't do anything else. Only those two lines of business, insurance, all types, and wealth management are the prime focuses and have been the prime focuses from my part for the last 40 years. We're also providers of Panorama 360, which is an integrated set of insurance and wealth management capability maps, information models, process models, training courses, and facilities also to populate modeling tools. And we operate globally. Currently, we have about 200 clients in 20 different countries. So let's start. Digital transformation is not about technology. Everybody will say technology will be involved, and they're right. But the first thing that it will do in all the organizations where these type of programs are undertaken is it'll change the culture. It'll change the way you do business, and it will enhance your customer experience. Right now, if I look at what's happening in the world, digital transformation is the first type of projects, number one, for all insurance companies that are undertaking it. And because some of the technology that exists today is old, it dates from the 1990s or the year 2000s, there needs to be things done before in order to achieve those kinds of major differences in the way we address processes and customer experience. Digital transformation begins and ends with customers. It's all about the customers. And it's about doing business using technology. And I've seen areas where technology was driving the business, and it partially does because the business needs to be aware of the technology that is available. But at the end of the day, the business has to be involved to a very large extent in the transformation, but also in defining what the transformation will look like. So what are the different types of digital transformation? I find there are about the three major ones. Some companies will define their transformation as our processes will be much better than they used to be. A significant focus on the activities, making them easier, eliminating what are the low value tasks in an organization. So that's one model that an insurance company may take. The next one is about transforming the organization, adding value to clients, adding value to the way they interact with you, eliminating even the touch points with people, doing underwriting right on the spot, pricing a product right on the spot without the involvement of people. That is one step even further. And then you have domain transformation. And how can you change the domain of insurance? Well, some companies have done it, and I'll just explain one of them. There's an insurance company that sells life insurance, property and casualty, and they also have a bank. Not only do they solve the problems and take care of the claims of people, but they also own the stores where if there's a claim for a fire and they need to replace the inside, all the furniture from the house, they have furniture stores. They have tires where they sell the tires for the cars. They sell cars, they sell diamonds, they sell TVs, they sell they have the whole value chain. They don't only have the insurance companies, but they have like a mart of all the different stores that will participate, and they will add value by not only solving the claims and replacing what was under the policies that they took from the insurance companies, but they also allow their clients to go and buy directly from those stores. So not only are they in the insurance business, they are also in the retail business. So that's a domain transformation, and it adds value, and it also significantly changes the processes of the insurance companies. What are the key challenges? The first thing that I see more often is the business is not as involved in the projects as they should be. They should be setting the strategies. They should be setting the vision. And if this is not done in hand with IT, then there's a piece missing. IT will be doing technology, but without knowing exactly what the business really wants, the vision of that business. So that's one challenge. And to get that involvement from the business people demands a lot of time. It demands also the best people, the ones that have a vision for the organization, the one that sees what may happen in the next 10 to 15 years. Because some of those projects will take years. No question about that. Now, changing the customer experience. If you try changing the experience of all the customers, I don't think you'll be achieving it. It may take years before you get a large portion of your customers to adopt what you want to change for them. And by doing that, you'll need to define that you have different types of customers. You have, first of all, corporate customers, individual customers, and then you have the young ones, the middle ones, and the old ones, the ones with white hair. So these ones sometimes don't want to change as badly as the younger ones. So you may need to adopt your strategy and change some parts of your clients, some portions of your clients, but to change everybody all at once may be a very large experience for them to go digital when they're not even used to using digital tools or digital computers or even telephones. Then the next one is pushback or lack of readiness of some areas of your value chain. I'll just give you an example. If you have, there's so many examples here that you need to address when you do the strategies. You can't forget any of those. So the first one are your employees. Some of your employees may not accept the change. They may see this as it will infringe on their roles. It may infringe on their responsibilities and even on the number of people that they may have right now that maybe they won't have in the future, because technology will take over some of the less meaningful tasks, and they will give power to the people that will have more impact on the customer experience. And then there's the outside world. I just finished one of the projects where we were dealing in the disability insurance. And obviously, when you deal with disability insurance, you'll need to touch with the health system, all the hospitals and the doctors and the nurses. So where I was working, the health system is manual, a lot of faxing, a lot of telephones, very little exchanges electronically. So if you're thinking that you're going to do a process from end to end involving the health system and exchanging electronically, they're not there. So part of your vision may be stopped temporarily until they get to the digital transformation. So you're a bit dependent on what the rest of the industry is doing, how advanced they are in digital transformation, as much as your employees and your customers. So all of that, you may get some pushback in your vision. You may do a piece of it, but it may not be as complete as what you would like it at this point in time. And the last point about a challenge is your technology. What's the state of your current technology? Does it need to be changed? Are you building your own technology, or are you going through software packages that are available on the market? So that's a choice that you have to make. And if you build, you will probably be building small components, technology components. And if you don't have all the APIs already in place, you may need to build them one by one, and that will take time. If you go for a software package, it's a compromise. It's not perfect. There's no perfect software package, but it's faster, but it's not less expensive. So there's a lot of trade-offs that may happen during your decisions, your vision, and you need to address all those challenges because they will be important. Building the technology for itself is not what it needs to happen. Building technology, when you look at the business, the vision of the business, the experience from the different types of personas that you have as clients, the pushback from the market, from your employees, and looking at your systems, these are all things that needs to be addressed. They're part of the management of change. 4 major milestones. And you see that those milestones don't even talk about the technology. They talk about vision. They talk about scope. So understanding the business context, as I said, you need to not only look at yourself, but looking at digital transformation is about changing the world. It's not about just changing yourself. We tried changing ourselves in the past, and some of the companies really achieved a good job on this. But now we need to extend that value chain to the customers, to the information providers, to the service providers, so that we're all linked together and that there are some values for all of the stakeholders that are involved in those processes. So we need to descope the digital transformation. We also need to design the state. What's that vision? And what are the guiding principles to build that technology? So you may need to, if you don't have right now in your organization, the enterprise view of your business that actually sets the guiding principles with the business, and it will define what will need to be put in place. Not the roadmap yet, but what are the principles that will be hinging the rest of your technologies. And then the roadmap. And from the beginning, you're not going to have a precise roadmap. You're going to have step by step. It may take the first 3 years, and then after that, the next 3 years. So you may need to do your roadmap as a sequence of projects. But when you look at the full program, which may take 10 years, then you need to be, sorry, do you see my screen?
We don't see your screen. No, we don't see your screen again.
Then you may need to address the first couple of years, see how this is done and what's the success like, and then after that, plan the rest of your project, and then sustain the digital transformation.
That's okay.
Is this okay?
Yes, of course. That's okay right now.
Oh, okay. What happened here? Just a second. You see my screen now? Okay. Thank you. Okay, sorry about this. I don't know what happened. It's technology. So, and then you need to sustain the digital transformation. Make sure that the cultural change is available, that we address those changes and we see where things are blocking, because the technology by itself won't do it. It's about people, it's about vision, it's about processes, it's about clients, it's about everybody. So let's go to the next screen. The rest of the presentation will be on the practicalities. So what's the life cycle of digital transformation in a big picture? Um, so it starts with the business, the planning. The business needs to plan, see what kind of investment they're ready to make, what kind of not only money but also resources, because it will take resources from the business and it will take resources from IT, and in some areas it may take resources even from your clients. Uh, I'm currently doing a small project where the company principles, the guiding principle says that customers will get involved in defining what digital transformation will look like for them. So that's a way of looking at customer journey. So that's the second step. What's the journey? What are the touch points that you will have with your clients, and where during the processes they will be part of the processes, and where will they have to get involved with technology in those different steps. And then your existing architecture. What's the state of your existing architecture? What are the pieces that can be saved, and what are the pieces that will need to be added? And then the business processes, the vision. Where are we going with this technology change? What are the new business processes that we need to consider? And what's the state of the current processes? What's the satisfaction level that customers currently have from the processes? And where are they expecting changes? And then your target architecture, and then obviously your APIs and your development, or if you take a software package, then they will be providing some, well, tools, technology, APIs, and then managing the change, which is not a small feat. I've put managing the change at the end to make it as a sequence, but literally you will need to start thinking about change management right from the beginning. The other thing that needs to be addressed is your project environment. You need to assess how ready your organization is in terms of different aspects like business strategy, changeability, your project team, the risk profile of your projects, and so on. And I'll be talking about this a little bit later, but it is also a factor. It's not only about the business and the clients, it's about also how ready are you to undertake those large projects? Have you already taken large projects like this to the end? A lot of companies, if you deal in the software package business, you may change a software package every 20 years, 25 years. Some of your employees have never done this. So there's a lot of things to be considered even before starting to talk about technology. So let's start about business capabilities being at the center of digital transformation. Business capability is a modeling technique. It represents your business and it's independent of the organization structure, processes, people, domain. It's about what are the things that you do or you need to do in your organization to support your mission. So you can either develop your own capability model, or you can adopt an industry one, or you can do both. You can actually develop yours and compare it with one that is available on the market and just adjust your model with the things that you see that are different from the industry model that exists. Developing your own will require significant time and resources. So from a team perspective, it will require a team from all departments. It will require teams from IT. It will also take a lot of discussion time because you have to come with one set of terminology that will be used for the whole organization. And this is not a small thing to achieve, just because even in the same company, you may consider from line of business to line of business a function and name it differently. And it will mean different things in the organization. So you need to come to a common terminology set, nomenclature, that will be adopted by the organization. And as soon as a word is mentioned, everybody in the organization sees the same thing. So the business capability, I'll show you how it links the whole cycle, life cycle of the digital transformation, from planning, designing, developing, and implementing major business changes. In fact, business capabilities can be used even to manage your own company, manage the way you deal with process management. Who owns a process? Which data is owned by which capability? So there's a lot of possibility with business capabilities. And I see that some parts of the world are more aligned with this. Like I can tell you that in Europe, they're just starting. In North America, they're a little bit ahead of Europe. But even if I look worldwide, the usage of business capability is not common yet. It will become, but it's just something that takes time. It's a management of change again. So, for the sake of this presentation, I'll be using what we've built. And I'll show you what it is, and you can build your own, but it is also available. So consider capabilities as building blocks, just like Lego blocks. Anything, when you open a box of Lego, you see bags and bags with blocks, and each bag has affinities between the blocks that are within the bag. A capability map is exactly the same way. It's blocks that represents the different activities, the different functions in your organization. So think of it as business capabilities being blocks that you can assemble together and you can make processes out of them once you have the full set of your capabilities being aligned with the organization. So what's our meta model? Panorama 360 has a value chain. So that's a very, very high level of abstraction that exists in an organization. What are the core aspects of the business and what are the supporting aspects of that business? And then you have industry standard is you have a 3-tier decomposition of the business, both from a capability, functional side, and an information capability on the information side. So information models. So you have this, and then you have the integration that exists between the capabilities. So the interdependencies that exist between the capabilities. And then you have the third level, and then you have the ownership. Which capability owns which piece of information? And then you can actually start building your capabilities into processes by linking the blocks, just like you would do with Lego blocks. And then the activities. So in Panorama, we didn't define all the activities, but the most common activities that are within each one of the capabilities are mentioned. And then the metrics that are aligned with the processes. and then the stakeholders, all the participants that are part of processes. So if you have all of this integrated, and most of the time you can integrate it into a tool. So you have a way of porting all those models into a tool, which then becomes integrated. I'll be using, for sake of demonstration, Excel spreadsheets. You can do it with Excel spreadsheets, but it's not as integrated as it should be. And by the way, we don't sell the tool. We're not tool sellers. We're knowledge people about the insurance industry. So let's go back to business planning. So if I go back, every time I'll do a section of this presentation, I'll be talking about the parts of a capability model that will need to be used in order to achieve the business plan, for instance. And then I'll use the same approach for each one of the sections. So business model map. The business has to do this. It has to define where it wants to go. What are the basic principles from a business perspective, what they want to achieve? How do they want to interact with their clients? What's the competition? What's the market asking? What are the service providers doing in terms of digital transformation? So once you have this, you can map this against your value chain and your second level business capability. So in Panorama, it's built like this. There's 11 major domains, which is part of the value chain, 72 business capabilities, the major ones, which you see a chart here. And then we'll see that later. We have a third level, which has 532 capabilities. But at this point, you'll need to map your business capabilities and do a heat map and see the strengths and the weaknesses in each one of those capabilities and the metrics that are aligned with it, and what's the level of planned investment to support the strategies, and what's the investment priorities. So you may have some capabilities that have a very low impact on the strategies, and others that will have a very high impact on those. And then you need to actually start ranking those by priorities and say, this is what we need to start. So you're starting to build your roadmap at the same time. What's the maturity of the capabilities? So now we're going a little bit lower in the level of granularity and details. So again, we start with the business model map. That is a very important portion. So in fact, when you start a project of this magnitude, you can actually go to each one of the vice presidents and basically ask them what's their perspective, and then linking all of that together. And by linking all of that together, you can actually, on the value chain, identify the areas where there's a weakness. And where there's a weakness, you can go from a high level description and then a lower level description. So identifying the capabilities that have a high impact on the strategies, but also a low maturity that needs to be improved over time. So if I take just by looking at this, the importance of the strategy, you can identify those capabilities that have an importance and the ones that have a maturity level that is high or low or medium. So you can actually rank them. So by doing this, you can rank the capabilities that have a high impact on the strategies and the capabilities that have a low maturity level. The ones that have a high impact and a high maturity level, you won't need to be addressing them. So you can go down to a third level of decomposition. And that's where really most of the the needs will be defined as we move forward in the digital transformation. So you can identify, go down a more granular level and identify the low-level capabilities that have a high impact, but also a low maturity level. And again, if you use a spreadsheet, we have a spreadsheet that has the 532 capabilities with their definitions. And you can do again the exercise. What's the maturity level? And what's the strategic differentiating capabilities that have a high impact on the strategies? So you can do that for the 532 capabilities and identify where it really needs to be investment to change the way we do business. Customer journey. How many personas do you have to deal with? Personas will be defined by your organization. How many types of clients? So in order to do a customer journey, you'll start at the value chain. What are the touch points that we are having with our clients? What's the different capabilities where the clients are touching us and we're touching the clients? And then within the processes, where are the elements? Where do we touch the client? So as you go down in the granularity, down to the processes and the stakeholders, because again, as I mentioned, you're dependent on what the rest of the industry is doing in terms of digital transformation. If everybody does digital transformation and there is a plan that is integrated for the whole set of service providers, information providers, and your organizations, that'll be fine. But it's not going to happen like that. Some will be lagging. Some are not ready for digital transformation. Some will be. So again, it all depends on your assessment of your value chain, and not only internal, but the extended value chain outside of your organization. So from the business capability map at the second level, you can identify those touch points. You can say all of those capabilities, we get involved with our clients. But we have different types of clients. So you need to go back to your clients and basically ask them how they want to interact with you. And if you don't interact the way they want, they may leave you. They may go for another company where there's more flexibility in the types of interactions. And so the older type of customers may not like doing digital transactional. The younger ones will. There's no question about that. So you need to adapt yourself to the type of customers that you have. And then you can go down to a lower level of granularity again. So within each one of those second level where you've identified touch points with your clients, then you can actually identify the exact within the processes. So the exact touch points within the processes where you will be dealing with your customers and interacting with them. So as you build processes, here's a process that we took out of the Panorama 360. You can identify where your touch points will be and identify within the different personas how are you going to be dealing with them. So you can go down and be as granular as you want and basically identify down to the elements of the processes where you're going to be having a discussion or an interaction or exchange with your customers. And as the processes not only are between you and your clients, if at the same time you need to interact with a third party, a service provider, an information provider, you'll need to make sure that in order to achieve what you want, the others will be aligned with what you're going to do. So the same way we did for the other types of within the presentation, we have also spreadsheets. We've built spreadsheets to define the different steps of the touch points with the different customers, personas. And again, there's 532 different business capabilities that are part of this model. The existing technology. Well, basically, you need to assess against the different business capabilities, where is currently your technology? Do you have technology for all the different capabilities? Are there some capabilities that are less covered by your technology? Is there a lot of manual intervention in your organization? So that needs to be defined. So you may define that as part of where we're going to have touch points, there is little technology currently, and you'll need to address that. So by doing a technology mapping on the customer survey that you will be doing, where your touch points are, and looking at mapping it against your capabilities, your business functions, the information that you gather, because the digital transformation may ask you or may need to gather more information to computerize and automate the processes and do a heat map. So which part of your systems are not as well developed as they should be to support the digital transformation? So mapping the existing technology's maturity level versus the customer journey expectation needs to be done. And then you'll need to define your processes. Notice that we're always using the same components in the Metamodel. So it's reusable, and that's why if you have it on a modeling tool, you will be reusing all the same pieces all the time. So as part of what we have built, we've built all those processes, end-to-end processes, marketing, product development, cross-selling, upselling, sales, policy administration, customer service, claims, benefit management, distribution channel, and service providers. We didn't define the human resources because this is not what we know best. But what we know best is about insurance. So again, we go back to the second level business capability, and we identify what's in scope and where are the integration points. So you also need to understand the ecosystem of your company, not only the capabilities or the technology to address a capability, but there's data that will be needed from other capabilities to basically tell you that you need to interact, you need to interface, you need some APIs. So that map has to be defined too. So again, now we have the second level going down to the third level. And then within the claims process, we'll need to identify those capabilities that are in focus. And then the activities. We suggest number of activities within our model, but now you're going down to a fourth level of definition. So there's activities that we suggest, but then you will, for each line of business, there may be some other activities that are particular to that line of business that you want to deal with first. So within the process, you will have to identify not only the capabilities and the technology for those capabilities, but also the integration point, which is part of where we have in the process, we have all the connections that exist between the different capabilities. and linking them together. And in the spreadsheets that we have built, we have the processes, we have the metrics definition, and the stakeholders. So these are all the participants that have a role to play in those processes, and those processes will have also impact on the outside world, because some stakeholders are not within your organization, they're outside of your organization, and you will need to interact with them. And then as you start building, you need to think about compliance. So again, we go back to the processes, the metrics, the stakeholders, and the activities, and where are those compliance elements that I need to, as an organization, to answer, whether there's government compliance requirements, or some associations compliance requirements, or even global compliance requirements, like liquidity, for instance. Some of those compliance requirements, they can come from the state, the country, and global, and you need to identify them. So within processes, you need to identify where the compliance requirements will take place. In the past, compliance was an after-the-fact situation. The transaction was signed, the transaction had gone through, and then a compliance officer would come and say, this is not right. So the new model is different. The new model for insurance companies is, because of the technology, as the process advances, as we move in the process, where are those capabilities with compliance requirements, and where do I need to raise flags if the compliance is not met? So as you move, you will actually have questions that the technology will own and answer the requirements, the compliance requirements, and not wait until the end for the processes to be taken over and then say, well, you got to go back to your client because it's not right. You can't do this. So there's a shift here. It hasn't been implemented in many companies, but it will need to be like this, because going back to your client and say, I can't offer you this product because I haven't met some compliance requirements. So companies can map those against every single capability. Where are the compliance requirements, and even put the article or the number of compliance requirements that needs to take place for each specific capability. So we've built a spreadsheet with all those compliance requirements for each one of the 532. Some capabilities may not have requirements for compliance, and some will have many. So this will need to be defined by each of your companies. And then your target application, where are you going in terms of technology? So based on what we have defined as the scope of a program and all the interfaces that need to take place, where is the technology going? So we have here technology application, integration, and information ownership. So we've built basically where the data gets created, what's the application architecture, and what's the usage of the data that belongs to different types of capabilities. So it's about integration, it's about ownership of data, and basically exchanging data between the different capabilities. And at the same time, it shows you that the interdependencies that exist in the ecosystem of a corporation. And last, we have information security. So about information security, we have an information model. And that information model, when it's integrated into a modeling tool, every single capability owns a piece of data. And it's integrated. As you build your processes, you pull the data within the process. So with the capability map, with the information models, with the personas, because each persona may touch some data and some may not be allowed to touch some data and some will not touch that data. And also within your own organization, some people will be allowed to create or use data and some will not. So that will have to be specified. So again, within a spreadsheet, we've identified areas where we can take the third level of decomposition in the information model and basically deal with what's the level of security that needs to be applied to that data. Who can access it? Who can create it, etc. And then the API definition. Again, we take the same approach where we have the capabilities at the second level of decomposition, the creation point, and the usage. And then based on that, we can identify where it gets created and where it gets used. So that's a create use matrix that we use to identify not only the integration between the technology, but we also identify the impacts on the organization. Because if we overlay on top of a model like this, the organization structure, we'll see who does what in the organization and who's dependent on what in the organization. And if I touch a system, it will touch other people in the organization that is part of the integration of all those business capabilities. So basically, here we have the information ownership, who owns the data. And last, if I take this model, Panorama has evolved over 24 years. It took us 24 years to build this model through our experiences in different companies. So we have the models that can be imported in a modeling tool, and that's the best way to use it. So there are many modeling tools on the market. We have the import file for all those modeling tools, and we also provide training for the usage of Panorama 360. So if I put it on the tool, then I can have all of that from a capability perspective, from an information perspective, with all the definitions and all the integration. I can link things together, which I can't do when I have an Excel spreadsheet and all the processes. So just show you a few examples of what companies do when it's all integrated. So they can actually map the project scope with the responsibilities and giving a responsibility to each one of each part of the organization that is responsible for each one of the capabilities, mapping the risks and the compliance to capabilities, aligning the capabilities to the initiatives. So I had a president of an insurance company that used to look at which capability a project touches. And if there are too many top projects that touch one single capability, they would look at how they can integrate those projects together, because you don't want to have 3 projects dealing with one set of capabilities, the same set of capabilities. And then you have building processes and mapping your technology against the capabilities. So it's just a few examples, and this was the usage of one of our clients. Now, how mature is your organization? How are you ready for such a major change? We have an assessment tool that looks at 9 vectors to evaluate the maturity of the organization to undertake large projects. There's 120 questions in total, and it assesses the strengths of the organization and where we may need to improve to deliver large projects like this. So we have a set of it's a set of capabilities. They're questions that were built by an actuary, and each answer is weighted according to the importance it has on the success of the project. So we have like this 9 different vectors. So we have 9 spreadsheets that brings you with an evaluation at the end of where your strengths are and where needs to be improved. Currently, Panorama 360 has 200 clients in the world, and about 6,000 architects are using it in 20 different countries. And there's some banks even that have chosen Panorama because between banking and insurance, from a capability perspective, there's a lot of similarities. So, as you saw, we went from business planning to customer journey. So basically where we want to go, where do our clients want to go? Existing architecture, how healthy is your existing architecture? What can we reuse and what needs to be replaced? The business needs to define their processes. What's the target architecture to define those processes and to support them? And the development or replacement by some applications that are available on the market. And all along the project, you need to manage the change. So that needs to be implemented right from the beginning, although here it is represented at the end of the life cycle. I'd like to thank the Insurance Research Center for involving me in this presentation. This is the second one. It's been a real pleasure and a real honor to do it. I also like to thank the company. It's a management consulting company in Iran, Goldsoft, that has recognized the value of Panorama 360 in the past. And I'm sure we'll be working together on projects providing consulting services to the Iranian insurance industry. So this is the end of my presentation. I thank you very much. If you have questions, I'm open to answer all of your questions. Thank you so much for your time.
First of all, I should declare the video session will be available online on social network pages so that attendees can reach it. Because we received many questions about
yes, I can hear you.
The slides and the video. Second, we have received a couple of questions about practical solution to cultural issues. Would you please elaborate on the point? We have some questions about cultural issues. You have mentioned about cultural issues at the beginning. I think we have some questions about solutions about cultural issues.
Which points were that? Sorry.
Elaborate on the point. Yes. Sure, you can.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. I hope I can answer it. Yes. Yeah. Culture in an organization is something that has been there for a long time. Culture, even in like if I compare, I've worked like in Europe, I've worked in Australia, I've worked in America, and I can tell you that the culture in each one of those organizations is different, even in the countries. I'll just give you an example. All the Latin speaking, like myself, I speak French, and I live in an area where it's more French than English. And that includes Italy, it includes Belgium, it includes Portugal, Spain, they like to build systems. I'm not sure about how you like to source your systems, but in those countries they like to build. Right now, when they've been building for the last let's say 30 years, and it took 30 years to get to what they have today, and it was a piece here and another piece there. And if you look at the English people, whether it's England, whether it's and even the German people and the rest of Canada and the United States, they don't build, they buy. They buy systems. So they buy systems that are already being made for the industry, for the insurance industry, and they implement it. So it may not be perfect, but because it's faster to get something somewhere, it may not be cheaper, it may be faster, and maybe it's only 70% or 80% of what you were really expecting, but it's been implemented in many companies. So that's one aspect. Most companies in the Latin world right now, they're starting to buy, but the culture of IT that wants to build, because they've been building for the last 30 years, they will push back on software packages. They will not want to select software packages. So if the business is not involved, and if the business doesn't say, we don't mind if it's not perfect, we want it faster, then IT may, I just say may, because it depends on the relationship that exists between IT and the business, may want or may stop to implement software packages. So that's one cultural aspect. The other one is your employees. Some of them have been there for their whole life. You're going to be touching them tomorrow morning with new technology. Some will not adjust. They will not like to have technology either replacing them, replacing part of what they do, or anything else. In some parts of the world, there's not enough employees to service clients. So if you input new technology, they may be happy, but even the older ones will not do it. They will not change. They will continue doing the work the way they used to do it, paper. So there's different cultural aspects that need to be considered. And even your clients, as I said, you have the older clients and you have the younger ones. Well, you may need to have two different ways of doing business, or three or four. Like right now, I'm doing a project with an agricultural insurance company. They insure the harvests of their farmers. Well, you have the small farmers that have basically hardly any production. They have production, but it's not big. And then and they're not automated. And they have the big farmers that actually feed the grocery stores, and they're all automated. So if you want to go and collect information about their cycle for sowing in their fields, and how many acres of fields do they have, some will give it to you by paper, or they'll phone you on the telephone and say, what's the question, and I'll give you the answer. And the other one, you'll know it automatically. They have Internet of Things available to feed you with that information. And then you'll get into volume. Well, the small ones, you only have about 20% of your business there, and you have 80% of the business of the big farmers.
I think.
But then the government wants to support the small farmers because they're the next one to be coming in the future, and they have the new ways of doing agriculture.
The digital approaches,
so that's part of culture, and these are all the challenges that need to be.
Do you propose digital
need to be considered
transformation lonely or alongside the traditional ways? What's your opinion?
I think that you can implement digital technology and allow within the digital transformation to have different types of interactions with your customers depending on the preferences of your customers. So if a customer doesn't want to receive their policy by internet or on a portal, you need to allow for that. So the question about preferences, some companies are forcing clients, and that may not be the best way, because it will happen over the next years, the next 10 years, sorry, over the next 10 years, it will change. The younger ones that are technology oriented will get into this new approach that you provide with your technology, your digital transformation. But some of the older ones don't even know what a computer it looks like. Like I remember my dad, he was 90 years old, and I offered him a computer. And when he was reading all the messages that were coming, he said, "They're writing to me. What can I answer them?" And he just didn't know that it's automatic. Things happen automatically. And it's not people writing to you. So there's that management of change needs to take place. So yes, try to interface and integrate yourself as much as you can with your service providers. So for instance, if you insure cars and there's car accident and you do business with a number of garages, and if they have a tool where you can actually request that your client that had an accident go and meet them on that date at that time to have an estimate being done, then do it, because you can call back your customer and say, "Mister, I've already made the arrangement for you to go to the garage." And that's added value. Eventually, what you can do, and if your client is more technology oriented, what you will be able to do is to interact with the garage directly and send the information at the email address of your customer saying, "You have an appointment on that day at that time." But it won't happen
I think,
immediately. It will take time to get 100% of your clients to do this.
Considering the customer situation.
Yes, think about the technology,
and the other one,
but then think about implementing that technology differently depending on the type of customers you deal with.
Could you give us a brief explanation about that? I mean, a definition.
Okay. Well, customer strategy, first of all, right now you need to look at what you gather about your client, and how many lines of business is there in a company. Do you offer life insurance? Do you offer commercial insurance for your businesses? Do you offer group life and health insurance, and so on? Well, depending on how many lines of business you deal with, you may gather about your clients more data. In fact, in the group life and health business, you gather about your wife, about your children, of the age of your children, and so on and so forth. If you insure only cars and homes, well, it's pretty limited. So customer service depends on your vision of the wallet share that you want out of your clients. If you have life insurance and property and casualty into one or two company and you own them, you'll need to think about building something that will gather all the information that you need to cross-sell and upsell. Because, for instance, if you have group life and health, and you know that your children are this age and this age and this age, and they're going to go to school, or they're getting close to get married, or there's a life cycle in people. We're born, we go to school, we study, we graduate, we marry, we have children, and then we may have a business. And so there's a life cycle. And throughout this life cycle, there's needs, there's financial needs, and there are insurance needs, there's asset needs like wealth management. I want to be investing my money so that I can retire a little bit earlier. So if you have this and you can gather all the information for your clients, then you can start predicting. You can actually assess where in the life cycle of your family or your children you are at, and what kind of services can you offer them. So there's all kinds of, and that's what we did in Panorama. We have 5 different sections. We have about getting your prospects. Who's your prospect? And then getting the information on your prospect. And then defining the financial needs that they have. And then servicing your clients. And servicing means sending them information of interest. That means also all their complaints. So you want to gather information about complaints so you can actually correct the services or the way you do servicing. So there's all kinds of things that you can do for customer service. And all of these capabilities, if they are not identified, you will forget them. Nobody will think about them. It's like if you're doing a recipe from a recipe book and you're missing a few ingredients, you may say, well, it's not important. It won't change the taste of what I'm doing. But if you have an ingredient that you don't have, and it'll change the taste, then at least you can say, well, do I need that ingredient? Or maybe for this time, I don't need it. So you make a choice. It's like a checklist.
There was a single question about
legacy. Capabilities
legacy.
is like a checklist.
Could you please
So making sure that you don't forget
tell us
anything.
about the points about the legacy?
Any other questions? You're welcome. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. If legacy system is where it hurts right now. In fact, because like I started implementing technology in 1979, so pretty long time ago, and I used to work on the English side of Canada, and in those days, English people already bought technology. And when you buy technology, you buy a big piece. You don't just buy a small capability, you buy a lot of capabilities. And they charge you a lot too. You buy a lot of capabilities. And over the last 40 years, some systems from the 1980s are still there. They're written in COBOL, they're written in assembler. You can't do much with those. So assessing the capability of your legacy system, can I attach something digital to this technology, is a big question. And you need to assess how much of this can be solved. Most companies right now, if I look around, there's one company not far from me on the life insurance side. they decided that they would remove everything. They remove, and it'll take them 10 years, okay? But they will remove every single piece of technology because it's too old. It cannot go more mature. So they'll be spending like $1 billion over the next 10 years. Just one insurance company. I know what they will be doing. They'll be being software packages. So that's basically the approach that they will take. In the past, they used to build, because building right now for them, they're pretty mature. They're one of the big ones in the area here, and they can't start just building a piece and another piece and another piece and another piece, because if they have group life and health, they have group pension, they have investment, they have individual life, they have individual health, they have long-term care as products. So if they start building a capability one at a time for each one of those products, they'll never finish. And once they have an application, those applications, because they're used by a large number of companies in the world, they will receive enhancements to those applications. And as the market changes, those will be implemented, and they will take advantage of those. So you buy the package, and then you pay every year for the improvements that are being done to the package. So, and if you have automobile and home insurance, it's one package. If you have life insurance, it's another package. If you have group insurance, it's another package. So again, they may end up with 5 or 10 different packages, and they will implement that over the next 10 years. And also, you got to think about conversion, because the minute you start replacing the old technology, you need to keep the information that you gathered in the past. How did you gather it? Where is it stored? Is it easily stored? And the package, if they buy a package, not only do they have to think about the future,
Also,
but they
there is
also have to
another
think about,
question
can it accept the data that I
AI,
already have
artificial
in my
intelligence.
older systems?
I'd asked about the
So you
role
need
of
to
AI
assess
in
your pieces
today's
of technology, the legacy technology,
insurance industry.
right from the beginning.
Could you please tell us some points?
Yeah. 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 Okay. There's different types of AI. There's natural language processing, and that basically just makes decision based on text. And there's also deep learning. There's machine learning. All of them will do a part of the process. Underwriting is the number one area where artificial intelligence may get. The other thing about artificial intelligence is going and selecting your potential clients, your prospects. For instance, if I live in a region and I have information about my clients in this region, and I know about the size of their family. So it's like doing statistical analysis and making decisions on statistics. Artificial intelligence may say, well, this is an area where you can grow, because in the past you've managed to sell more business in this area than in another area where the profiling is different. So they can do profiling. So artificial intelligence it's used in the big companies right now. The smaller ones cannot afford them. What I can think happening is, in the future, the software packages that exist on the market, they will partner with some of those artificial intelligence companies and embed that into their technology and offer it as a overall package. So you can, the big ones are buying, in fact, the big ones are investing in those companies that do artificial intelligence. The other thing also, there's a university here that is, through the government, has basically formed an AI area, an AI research center for AI. And there's an insurance company that has put some money into that center so that they can actually learn from what's happening through the university. So AI is new. The other thing you need to think about is Internet of Things. So Internet of Things also is something that is coming. I'll just give you an example, and it's a funny one. If you have an automated toothbrush, so you brush your teeth every morning, and you have basically dental insurance. Let's say you have a policy that insures against dental insurance. Well, some of those toothbrushes are they act as an Internet of Things. They are automated. They have an API. The API goes to the insurance company, and the insurance companies can actually know that you brush your teeth once, twice, or not every single day. And your premium will go according to the number of times you brush your teeth.
Thousands of insurance representatives.
It goes very far, and it will go even further.
Inside Iran. You know, the main concern is neglecting this part of industry would result in a disaster, and digital transformation, I think, is not a close friend to them. Would you please give us some points about the effects of digital transformation to traditional retail and representative? Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. You're welcome. Okay. Distribution channels that we see around the world. There's brokers. They're independent. They have partnerships with many insurance companies, and they do business with many insurance companies. So that's one. The other one are captive agents. So an insurance company may go through their own employees. We call them captive agents because they're captive to the insurance company. And so basically they only sell the products of one specific insurance company. And sometimes they will sell another insurance company's product if the company they work for doesn't offer such a product. So that's the second one. And then you have the direct writers. They have no agents. Basically, it's employees, call centers that are used to sell. So they pay their employees salary. These employees only work and sell those insurance policies and insurance products. And then you have the internet, because the internet is a distribution channel. There's a company here that if you want to buy insurance, there's no involvement of people. You get your quote, you get your policy immediately, and you haven't talked to anybody. So what do you do with the brokers? Well, the internet-based model You don't need to ask them. They'll do whatever you want. The direct writers, the ones that use their own employees with call centers to call their client, to call prospects and clients, you won't have any problems with them because that's their employees. The captive agents, you should not have much trouble with them and digital transformation because they're your employees. They may be paid differently because they'll be paid either on commission, base commission, and extra commission if they go over a limit of sales. They'll get cars, they'll get offices, and so on. But then you have the brokers. And the brokers, if they don't have technology, see, what happened at one point in time, at least in Europe and North America, is that brokers did not have any technology. And then insurance companies started offering technology to the brokers and tying those brokers to them. But then the brokers could, if they wanted to do business with 5 insurance companies, they had to have 5 different systems. So that didn't work. So then broker systems, insurance brokerage systems started to be sold. So in a country, you may have 2 or 3 systems that brokers would have. And then you can actually, the insurance industry started building APIs between the broker's system and their own insurance systems. But then you have the big ones, the big insurance company, that they want to have all the market. So you'll get into a fight between the different insurance companies, and one will say, I won't be part of your portal because I want to have my own portal. So you cannot forget those people. You cannot forget the brokers because that's your business. Now, there's a few insurance companies, and there's more and more now. They have 2 insurance companies. The first one is brokers, and they're dedicated to the brokers, but they also have an insurance company with direct writing. So they have 2 different insurance companies, 2 different names, and 2 different models, 1 set of technology. So if you want to expand and provide digital exchanges with your brokers, they're going to have technology one day. And when I said right at the beginning, it's not about what goes into your company. It's about the rest of the industry. Your brokers are part of your, in fact, you will try, as soon as they get the technology, you'll try to push some of the administration to the brokers because you're duplicating the work. They take the name, they take the address, they take the phone number, and then you take the address, you take the name, and you take the phone number.
Are tied together
2
through
different
APIs.
steps, and one of them is useless. So
Thank you.
the brokers will have to also have
much.
technology in the future if you want to do the whole thing.
Dr.
Mahnaz, sorry Mahnaz, do you hear me? I have a question.
Yep.
Do you hear me?
Yes, of course.
In fact, it's a portal.
Okay.
Dr. Kortbache, Dr. Kortbache is our
Yes. Hi.
YouTube manager, actually here. He wants to speak with you. Please listen. Doctor, please.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank
Yes,
you,
I can
Pierre. I'd like to appreciate you for your nice presentation. That was quite interesting and informative. Actually, for me, with a lot of helpful information and
Okay.
good idea. Sorry, I know the time is ended now, but if I may, I have two questions. Is that okay? All right, here, Pierre, here we have a hot discussion about the definition of digital transformation. You know, different people define this term in different ways. Some those say digitization is something like change from analog to digital situation and position, and other says, for example, digitization is something like digital technologies and digitized data, for example,
Yes.
or digitaling to affect how work gets done, you know. So, what's your opinion about the importance of this difference, and how important is this for the subject and for the improvement the subject in insurance industry?
Yes.
And the second question, as you know, IRC, I mean, Iran's Research Center, is a research institution for fundamental and applied studies in Iran's insurance industry. Digital transformation or digitization, anyway, is one of the main and relatively new subject here in Iran. So my question is, what can institutions, I mean IRC, or institution like ours, do in developing or contributing the subject? And I'm a little bit more worried about the actually the role of IRC. As you know, the institution like us are something like watchtowers for industry like insurance. So if you can give an answer to second question, it would be very good for IRC. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. Okay, for me, digital transformation is not about analog and digital. It's about a way of doing business. It's about transacting with our clients and service providers and information providers in a digital manner. That means that at the end of the day, the decisions that are made that have an importance in the outcome and the success of a company, most of the transactions, most of the aspects will be done in a digital fashion. Exchanges will be done digitally. Like I talked about, that there was an example, but an automated toothbrush that actually sends the information to the insurance company, because the insurance company is saying, if you brush your teeth more than twice a day or twice a day, we'll start reducing your premium. So that is digital transformation. And it also adds value because the client may not pay as much if they take care of their teeth. In North America and in Europe, I'm not sure about South Africa or South America because I've never worked there. But in those two countries, we have cars that have a widget, a little piece of technology that you can track the speed at which they do. If they stop frequently and abruptly at corners, if they start their cars very quickly when they have stopped at corners? Do they exceed the speed? And how many kilometers do they do in a year? And by doing, and also if they mainly ride their cars in cities, big cities, or out in the countries, all of this will affect their premium. They will actually reprice their premiums on a monthly basis. So we have now a satellite that takes the information. It used to be on a cell phone before. And then they said, oh, the cell phone is okay, but because of the battery on a cell phone, we'll put it on the car. The battery doesn't last very long, and if the battery's down, I cannot follow. So they don't make this mandatory to the clients, but they allow the clients to make a decision. Would you like your premium to be lower if you're a good driver? And if you're not, well, it won't charge you more, but we can charge you less. And a lot of people say no because they don't feel or they don't want anybody else to know. Or they say yes, and I'm happy that I will be able to maybe reduce my premium. So that's one way of using digital, and the premium is calculated automatically. So the information gets in automatically from the car to the satellite to the insurance company. They receive that. Premium is re-rated, and at the end of the year, depending how frequently you pay your premiums, but at the end of the year, you can actually have a reduction or a monthly basis. So it just depends how often you pay. That is just one example. Internally, within an insurance company, we've done a lot of things in the last 30, 40 years. We've automated a lot of our processes. It's not perfect, but now it's dealing with the rest. We're always doing mailing. We're always doing faxing. We were, at least. We're always, so right now we're trying to remove this and basically allow the clients to go and get their policy directly on the internet. That's one way of doing it. Or submit a claim. There's an insurance company that says that as a service level agreement with their clients, they say within 30 minutes of an accident, you'll have somebody calling you and we'll tell you everything you need to do to resolve your claim. That's not bad. It used to take days before. Now they're saying in 30 minutes we'll call you. In fact, there's another insurance company that if you have an accident, and they have an application on the cell phone. So if you have an accident, you open the app and you report your claim. You take pictures immediately. Take pictures of the accident. And there's now technology that will assess the extent of the damages on the car directly from a picture and send you an approximate cost,
so as
you can set your reserves.
Got it right, you mean digital transformation is more about
in order to do
something
that,
like
you'll need to
leveraging digital technology to, for example, increase some organization in different scope. Is that right? Okay, yes. Mm-hmm.
You're extending the value chain.
Thank you.
You're going outside. Okay. So you're pushing the technology outside so that the technology sends you information that you need in order to do your business. But in order to do this, you'll need to have changed your own technology internally. Okay. Okay. Now for the insurance research center, there's companies here that actually have, well, not companies, but research center that they invite people to talk. Uh, they uh, they they basically it's all about reading what's happening in the rest of the world. I read about 10 different articles every morning about what's happening in the rest of the world and what technology exists. Because if we don't know the technology can do it, we won't think about what it can do for us. So it's about raising the awareness about the technology and maybe taking a capability map and say, for this technology, for this capability, there's a technology here, there's a technology there, there's another technology there. So it's digital transformation is around the world. It's the only project right now happening. Everybody is getting into it. And because also about the pandemic has changed a lot of things in the world. So, and it's going to change the rest of the world too. Like it's going to, like right now I'm working from my office. I'm not working at the client side. I can't go there. So all my meetings are on a screen. I'm anxious to go back to my client, but I do most of my projects on a screen. I don't see my people in a 3D dimension. I see them in a 2D dimension on a screen. So the world is changing. And from what I see here, we won't go back to the office on a full-time basis. All the offices are changing the way they're structured because people will go there for 2 days. They'll sit at a desk, bring you their laptop, put it down, and all their papers, they won't have any more paper, no more files. It'll all be directly on a system. And we'll go there for 2 days. We'll go back home for 3 days. And this has an impact on the housing because now the people living in small apartments, because their kids are now starting to, everything is going to change. Everything is changing. So people need bigger houses because now there are 4 people and 3 of them are working from the house. It's like a ball rolling and it's grabbing a lot of things on its path at the same time. So digital transformation is here to stay. It will take many different flavors. You need to read about it. Maybe make articles that you can read from different sites available to the insurance industry. Invite people.
Yes, thank you very much.
Work with
And
people that have another type of
so
experience.
And
like
I'd
I'll
like
be working
also
with some
thank
of your companies. There's no question about that. But
yeah, thank you.
That's the only way to do it.
Let me thank our data
I'm
mining
not sure if
desk
I
for
answered your
organizing
questions
such
well.
a nice and interesting seminar. Thank you very much.
No, it's fun. I like this.
Okay, I would like to say thanks to Dr. Kortbache because of his support from us to help such a
Yes.
webinar, and I would like to say thanks to
You're very
Pierre
welcome.
for
Thank you, sir.
his nice and informative lecture and his kindly response to all questions. That was really great, and I really delighted to his presentation. That was really informative, and I hope to visit you in Iran and do more collaboration in insurance industry. Thank you very much, and unfortunately I have to say bye. Thank you, Pierre. Bye. Another point
Thank
I
you.
forgot
Bye-bye.
to say was that